Hi everybody, my name is Laura Middleton and I live here in Ledbetter, Kentucky. I have been a quilter now for going on 34 years. I have been asked by Kelly if I would show you all how I do quilted vinyl. It's the same process whether you're doing any fabric, your canvas, your leather, etc. So knowing that fact, I'm going to show you what I do. Okay? I have been asked to do a quilted bag of Charlotte. It is by Swoon. It's a city tote. It's a very easy sew. But when you're quilting, allow time for it because it is work. And I'm going to show you the process of how I do that right now. When you are cutting your material for any piece, whether it's a handbag, a wallet, etc. If it calls for 11-inch square, cut it to 12.5, go up by 1 to 2 inches. For safety, I always like 1.5 inches bigger than and wider than what it calls for. And the reason is that when you are quilting with all those stitches that are going up and down and across your pattern piece, it shrinks just a little bit. So what quilters have learned how to do is if we want a 108-inch square, we have to go up to 110 to 112 in order to get to that precise amount. So always make sure that your piece is clean, lint-free, and just about 1.5 inches to 2 inches bigger than the pattern calls for. Now the city tote is easy, the Charlotte, and here's how we're going to do it. And I'm going to adjust this so where you can see my table. The first thing you want to do is cut out your piece, like I said, 1.5 inches to 2 inches bigger than what it calls for. Make sure it is clean, and I base spray this onto my foam. Even though I can steam it, I like to base spray it and I let it sit overnight. When you are on the back of it, the first thing you're going to do is, let me get this other piece real quick. The first thing you're going to do after you baste it, let's set that to a side for just a minute. Get it all lined up. And I like to use some hairpins to where I know it's not going to go anywhere on just the sides, like so. I'm not worried about these sides because they're going to adjust here in a minute anyway. You want to find the center. And right now I've got a 14-inch square underneath my foam, which is right here. And I'm going to find the center, which is at 14. And I'm going to make a line on the 14. I'm going to do half on all 4 sides. Now, when you are doing this, and I don't know if you can see this, when you find the middle, what you want to do is take your ruler, and you need a long ruler to do this. I got a 24-inch ruler. Grandson stepped on this side, so that side's broke, so Laura needs a new one for her birthday. Put your ruler on the right-hand side in the corner and go over to the inch line next over here and draw a line. That's simple. Now, this part takes a lot of time. You got a wiggly line right here. You want to do the opposite on this side. So go 1 inch over here to the bottom corner down here and make a line. If you want to do it perfectly on the center mark, quilters don't really like to do that because then you have this little V at the top in the middle. Sometimes it gets pushed under when you're sewing and doing your seams. That's a no-no. Some people like to go 1/2 inch on each lines to 3/4. I like 1 inch on a handbag because it doesn't give so much scrunch and it gives it a little bit more durability, and it also just makes the bag just look absolutely wonderful when you're done. So it takes a lot of time, and you just mark 1 inch lines all the way down and all the way across. So what you're really doing is you just got to shift it. You got to play with it. You put your inch line on that mark and draw a line. And then before you know it, your piece will look like this. Okay? And if you do anything less than an inch, you can, but like I say, when you're quilting vinyl and quilting leather, it really doesn't look adequate. So I always use approximately an inch to an inch and a quarter. I find that an inch is perfect. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put it over here on the machine, and I'm going to tell you a few more tricks of that. So let me get set up. Okay, I'm at my machine, and I have a Pfaff Expressions heavy-duty quilting machine. When I am doing vinyl, I use Gutterman polyester. I use silver thread all the time. I never change my thread, and that's how I got my name as Silvery Threads, because my maiden name is Silvers. So here's what we're going to do. When you start quilting, you want it bigger. I've already went through that. You want to pin it and baste it. I've already went through that. But the reason is now is use your walking foot and start at the edge. Yes, your vinyl is not at the edge, but this gives room for allowance, because there underneath here is where my vinyl is. So if I start right here, that gives my thread and my starting stitches enough space to wrinkle up, crinkle up, etc. And then when I cut out my pattern, then everything is going to be right. Another thing is when you are quilting vinyl, the most important thing to do is when you cut your piece out, cut it 1/4 inch more than what the pattern calls for, and do a slight zigzag stitch all the way around it to baste it. This will keep your threads and, believe it or not, vinyl to fray. So when you get it underneath here, you know, set your thread exactly what you need to do. Use a walking foot or a presser foot, whichever one's your favorite. I use a top stitch of 3.5. That is what I like for my machine. So use what you like for your machine, and just quilt it. Just stay on your line. Pull it off, clip your thread, and like I said, quilting requires a lot of time. Quilting is beautiful, and if you see, for me, that top stitch is beautiful. If you go to a bigger stitch length, like to a 4.5 or to a 5, the wear and the tear of the handbag is going to wear and tear your thread, so keep your top stitching minimalized. And then that is really all you got to do. All you got to do is keep your threads out of your way and stitch. I like to stitch from where my lines are. I really do not want to make marks on my vinyl. Keep your threads cut off and nice and neat. You're going to get dust on here when you are quilting, and the best thing to do for that is to just simply take a wet, damp cloth and wipe it off, and you're good to go. So I'll be right back when all of this is quilted, and I'll show you what I do next. This is what I mean by keeping your threads clipped off, because say you didn't do that, and it was to get tucked under to the next side of the next line you do, you're going to have to rip those stitches out and then pull this out. So it's very, very important to keep these extra threads clipped off. And it does take a little bit of time, but here in a minute I'm going to show you the outcome, and it is just beautiful. Be right back. Okay, so I've got this all quilted, and you can see how beautiful that piece of vinyl is. It's not all plain Jane, and it's very pretty, and it's also very easy to clean and to take care of. Now, The reason from the very beginning you cut your pieces bigger than what it's called for is because, like I said, when you're quilting and putting thousands of stitches onto one little bitty piece, it will shrink just a little bit. I cut this at 14 square, and I just got done measuring it, and it is shrunk down to 13 by, let's see if I'm close. I know it will be because I've done this for years. 13. So I have lost an inch. So if you if you don't allow for that, and I missed a line, if you don't allow for that, then you will be sorry. And another thing is, and I done this one on purpose here just a minute ago so that way you ladies could see this, and gents, when you start at the edge, okay, see how clean those are, okay? Now watch, when you get down into here, this corner, look what that did. From not keeping your threads to start up here, this is what happens. And if you don't allow for that extra inch or two, you will get this. And it's not fun to rip those out. But now, see, there's my starting mark. But now down here is my line. So that's in there. So if I don't fix that, I'm screwed. I'm going to have to do it all over again. So yes, I will pick this out, and I'll come right back, and I'm going to show you how to cut it and get it all cleaned up and baste it, and we'll be done. Okay, so like I said, I am doing the Charlotte City tote, and a customer has asked it for a quilted bag. And the main panel, you will quilt a main panel piece and all your pieces, even the side gussets and even the bottom. I also quilt my handles. So quilting is a process. Now this is 11.5 by a certain size. You'll have to download the pattern to get all the dimensions. But what I do first is I start off by doing a little bit of trimming. And when you trim it off and keep your threads nice and clean, you get that every time. And it is so beautiful. And then all you got to do is just trim it and size it down. If you're doing now right here you would L shape it off to where you get a perfect square, because this is almost square, and then I'll fix it because I don't think it's right to share a pattern even if it's free. I think you need to, I'm stuck somewhere, there we go. You need to download a pattern. So you square it. Now see right there, I have a little bitty thread, and that's fine because remember what I said is that you have to cut it 1/4 of an inch bigger. And the reason is this. One second. Sorry. Okay. When you get done cutting your sides, now I know I still got to do this side and this one, but the side of video sakes, and you all don't have to listen to me talk for an hour long. When you get done trimming your sides off and getting it all squared off, make sure you cut this 1/4 inch bigger all the way around. So if you have, like the Baronia bag has like a half-shaped moon at the top, cut that more than 2, because when you get done with this, so that way you do not have to have little bitty stitches that may fray off or break, you're going to baste stitch it, and you just need a little short basting stitch 1/4 of an inch all the way around. After that is done, then you will be able to cut your piece out the way that it calls for in your pattern. However you quilt it is completely up to you. I really enjoy the quilted look. It kind of makes it a little puffy. Let's see if I can get a better view. Here we go. It gives it a little bit of a puffy feeling, especially when you're doing it with the no-sew foam or the free fusible foam, and I like it. And I love being a quilter, and I love doing handbags, and I hope that this video helps you. And if you have any questions or anything, don't hesitate to ask me, because I really enjoy helping everybody, and I love Kelly, and I love y'all, and I hope to see you soon. Bye. Hope you learned something from me, from an old Kentucky girl. Bye-bye.